I don't know if this has ever happened to you. It probably has, because I think it's a pretty universal experience. But I was thinking about like just my past self and thought that guy was kind of stupid. He just didn't know a lot of stuff that I know now. But that got me thinking, is there a future version of myself thinking about me right now like that? Am I getting trash talked in 2030 by Jack? So I wanted to figure out a way where I could look at myself through the lens of an older, smarter, future version of myself. Now there's two ways to do this: a time traveling device to talk to your future self, or you ask yourself three simple questions. So I'm going to do this for myself first, talking to future versions of myself, and then I'm going to show you how you can talk to future versions of yourself and get advice from a smarter version of yourself. So that being said, let's get right into it. What's up, everyone? My name is Jack Murphy, and this is a finance/investing YouTube channel. So I'm going to go over kind of my finance and investing aspect of life and try to look at it through the lens of a future version of myself. And I'm going to show you how you can do that same for yourself, because it actually is a pretty good way to reevaluate what you're doing and kind of knock some sense into you and get you back on track if you were not kind of following the steps you set for yourself in the past or whatnot. So, how can you go into the future and get advice from your future self on what you should be doing right now? Well, I've actually repurposed an old Xbox controller and made it a device that I could receive and send messages to and from my future selves. So I can talk to 30-year-old Jack, 60-year-old Jack, 100-year-old Jack, and get advice from them on what I should be doing right now. So I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to contact two different versions of myself. I'm going to contact a 30-year-old Jack and a 65-year-old Jack. I think these are just two good ages to talk to, so let's do that. I'm going to take this Xbox controller and send a message to my future self asking the question, am I giving myself the tools to be in the best place financially when I'm 30 years old, so I have all my goals accomplished or on the right track? And since this is a time traveling message device, I've gotten my response immediately from 30-year-old Jack, so let's see what he said. What's up? I'm 30-year-old Jack. I'm going to give you advice from your 30-year-old self. At the age of 30, you're going to want to do some things like buy a home, start a family, whatever. So you're going to need to have some tools set in place to help you make that easier. The first one is get a credit card. You want to have a good credit so you can get a good loan at a good rate for when you want to buy a house. You also want to start saving for two different types of funds. You want an emergency fund. Emergency fund is a type of fund you can go if you have an emergency and take money from, so you don't take out money from your investments or something you were saving up for otherwise. You also want to start saving for a down payment. Now, you don't necessarily need to do that while you're in college, but by the end of college you should start putting away some money, so the time you do decide to buy a house, you already have some of that down payment saved up, and you'll have the opportunity to jump on a good deal if you see one. That is everything I wanted to tell my past self. So if you take this advice, it'll definitely make it easier for yourself when you are 30, and it is not very hard to start right now. So that is my advice to you. Peace out. Wow, that's pretty cool. I just got a message from my 30-year-old self. So let's break down what I said. The first thing I mentioned was getting a credit card, a beginner credit card. This could be like a Discover It student card or a Chase card. I personally was planning on getting the Chase card. I actually haven't done this yet. I've been 18 for a couple months now, and I've just kind of been procrastinating on this, so it was good to knock myself back in line so I do this soon and actually start building a good credit. It is also important, if you are going to do this yourself, to prioritize paying off every month that credit card. Don't be buying anything you weren't already going to buy and have budgeted for, like food or school stuff or whatever. Because if you do not pay off the credit card every month, you're actually going to hurt your future self. You're going to make it harder to build up that credit score because you'll have bad credit history. I also mentioned the emergency fund and the future home deposit fund. These aren't necessarily something I need to focus on right this second. I'm going to start building an emergency fund. I've also been meaning to do that, but kind of haven't really done it. I'm not going to have a lot of money in it right away. Definitely not 8 to 12 months expenses, but if I can start putting a little bit of money into it every month, by the time I graduate college and move on with my life, I'll have at least a little something there for small emergencies, and then I can really start building it to 8 to 12 months expenses. I also mentioned the savings for a future down payment on a home. If your goal is to own a home, you're going to need a down payment and good credit. So if we're doing the credit card stuff, we should have the good credit, and we're also going to want a down payment. Once again, I'm probably not going to start adding to the down payment fund until maybe my last year of college or whatever. But if you want to eventually own a home, the sooner you start saving for that down payment, the less of a burden it will be when you find a good home or a good deal on a home that you want to jump on right away, because you already have that down payment saved up. But yeah, overall, I think 30-year-old me gave some good advice. I'll definitely take that into account and make sure I start implementing those aspects into my life. And now I want to call 65-year-old me to get an insight on kind of my retirement plan, or what I'm going to do when I'm retirement age. So I'm going to use this time traveling message device to send 65-year-old me a message. I'm going to ask, do I have a good retirement plan, and am I following it correctly? So let's receive the message from him and see what he says. Hello, I'm 65-year-old Jack, and here's the wisdom I want to bestow on my past self. The first piece of advice I'd give you is set up your Roth IRA and invest in it consistently and as soon as possible. When you're my age, having that Roth IRA is a huge bonus of tax-free income, and the sooner you start, the better, because every year you don't put money into it, you're basically losing money. I know it's going to take a long time, but by the time you're in your 60s, it's going to really pay off, and you'll be very happy you did it. The next thing is, it is important for you to remember your goal. Your personal goal is to retire as early as you can, and the best way to do that is getting some type of passive income to supplement your retirement. Now, your personal goal is to have a lot of dividend stocks paying you enough dividends to cover all your expenses and more, so you want to make sure you're focusing on that. Keep investing in that taxable account in good dividend stocks, and long term they're going to do well. And the last piece of advice I want to make sure you understand is learn to budget efficiently. If you want to put money in your Roth IRA and your dividend stocks in an emergency fund and start saving for a deposit on a home, you have to be able to manage your money efficiently to do all those things, and also just live your life in general. Being able to budget efficiently can help you manage your money the right way so you can accomplish all these goals and still live your life. It's definitely a good skill to start working on early on, so you are able to use it your whole life efficiently. But those are pretty much all the things I wanted to bestow upon you. So as long as you follow those guidelines, you will have a great retirement, and hopefully you'll get to retire soon, which is your goal. Peace. Wow. Thank you, 65-year-old Jack. And I also want to mention, that guy looks pretty good for 65. I'm just saying. But let's move on to what I said. The first thing 65-year-old me mentioned was the Roth IRA. Now, if you don't know what a Roth IRA is, it is a retirement account where you do not pay any taxes on the profits you make. Once you turn 59 and a half, you are able to access this tax-free money to basically just give you a ton of bonus money when you're in your 60s. The reason future me said the longer you wait, you're basically losing money is because you can only invest a certain amount every year. So every year you don't invest money, you can never catch up. So that's why it's important to start as soon as possible. Future me also mentioned my personal goal, which is to retire as early as possible. I think that's the best thing future me can mention, because it's important to always stick towards my goal. If my goal is to retire early, I'm going to need to have a lot of dividend income to supplement that retirement and pay for my expenses. So I should be investing consistently into my dividend account alongside my Roth IRA, so I have dividend income to access before I turn 59 and a half. But I actually think I am doing that pretty well, so future me isn't too concerned about that. And the final thing future me mentioned was to learn to budget efficiently. In my particular case, I'm actually going to start to need to budget my money better soon, so it is important to learn that skill, because if I want to be able to put money in dividend stocks, put money in my Roth IRA, pay for a down payment in the future, and have an emergency fund, I'm going to need to learn how to manage my money so I can do all that and still pay my expenses to just live my day-to-day life. So it's important to know how to budget. That is going to be a tool that I can use to make my life easier in the future. That being said, I don't think future me is going to be doing too much trash talk about me right now, because I'm actually doing a lot of these goals, but the two future me's did remind me to do some stuff I was kind of putting off and procrastinated on, like starting a credit card, starting an emergency fund, and learning to budget better. Those are skills I could definitely improve upon, and it was a good wake-up call. But now I want to tell you how to talk to your future self. So I know I have the time-traveling message device, but if you don't have one, I'm going to tell you the closest thing you can do to talking to your future self, and you just got to ask yourself 3 simple questions. So the 3 questions that you can ask yourself to talk to your future self are, what are your goals? What are the tools you're going to need to accomplish these goals? And what are the seeds you can start planting now? So the first question is pretty easy. What are your goals? In the personal finance / investing space, most of the goals are going to be retirement oriented, but this could also be buying a house, maybe buying a car, maybe buying something also very expensive, and you're going to need to learn how to invest or save properly to do so. Me personally, my goal was to retire early, so I needed to figure out how to retire early. So now this is where the second question comes in. What tools are you going to need to accomplish these goals? So you need to find out how you're going to accomplish the goals you asked in the first question. So I'll go back to my personal example, retiring early. Passive income was my answer, the tool I would need to retire early. So how do I get passive income? Well, the easiest way, in my opinion, and the best way is through dividend stocks. So that is what I'm doing to achieve this goal. The dividend stocks are my tool to retire early. Let's say your goal is to buy a house. Your tools would be good credit and the money for a down payment. So those tools are what you're going to need to accomplish your goal. So now that brings me to the third question. What are the seeds that you can plant? Now what I mean by this is, what can you do now relatively easy, like planting a seed that will grow into something extremely beneficial and plentiful that would be much harder to do if you wait until you need it. It's much easier to start a savings account for your down payment and put a little bit of money each month, and start using a credit card to build a good credit score. So you have the down payment whenever you find a good opportunity for a house, and you have a good credit score, so you're not going to have a super expensive loan. But let's say you don't plant these seeds. By the time you want to buy a house, you're going to have no money for a down payment, and you're going to have a really expensive loan because you have bad credit or no credit at all. And let me go back to my personal example. The seeds would be investing into dividend stocks a little bit each month now, so by the time I want to retire, I have that dividend income to supplement my retirement. If I were to decide one day to retire when I'm 40, I'm going to need a ton of money right away to put into dividend stocks to get that dividend income. But if I do it a little bit each month for a long period of time, it'll mean I have to put much less money into it, and it'll be a lot less stressful to accomplish my goal. So if you ask these questions and really understand the question, find answers that you really understand and can actually apply to your life, that is the best way to talk to your future self and get advice from them. Before you leave, I still have this time-traveling message device, so comment any other questions you think I should ask my future self. I could definitely make a part 2 to this video or something. That's all for today. If you enjoyed, leave a like. Here's some of my other videos up here, but that is all for today, so peace.